Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, this podcast is for you. Recruiting is a battlefield where the rules keep changing and the chaos never stops. As the world shifted to remote work, real connection and unfiltered learning have never been more urgent. This isn't just a podcast, it's your survival guide. Welcome to the revolution, Your Digital Bullpen. David
Reunited.
Adams on the Digital Bullpen. Welcome to the family.
Yes.
We're so excited to have you. Welcome.
I'm glad to be here. This felt like old times, you know?
Yes.
Thank you for saying old times. Now
Yeah.
because when we start talking, it will feel like this olden days. But
Totally.
I am super excited to have Mr. David Adams on the Digital Bullpen today. Remember, guys, before we get going, we're going to talk about a lot today. If you like what you hear, like it, share it with your networks, tag somebody underneath of it. We want to continue to grow our community. Smash that like button, right, Myrna? Smash it.
Smash it.
Well, I am going to introduce to you today somebody very near and dear to my heart for many reasons, but David Adams has really a true staffing industry veteran, over 20 years experience across about every role you can imagine, from a recruiter to sales pro to multi-branch manager, national trainer, just keeps going. He has worked across the full spectrum of staffing, from professional services like accounting, banking, IT, to commercial and clerical placements. But after that, he said, before launching that on consulting practice in 2014, David served as the VP of National Training for Adecco North America, where he designed, facilitated sales, recruiting, and leadership development programs for thousands of employees.
Wow.
Your impact even went global. At one point, Adecco flew you to Rome and Milan. I'm jealous to train at their teams in Italy, which is super
Man, you
cool.
did some research then.
well, then,
Dang.
I mean, you've been busy. And then if that wasn't enough, like to me, it's like, that's career done, right? Good. No.
Yeah.
Then over the past decade, David has actually expanded beyond traditional staffing. Actually, today you consult with organizations across manufacturing, financial services, healthcare, doing leadership development, executive coaching, and strategic account management. Though you got your start in LA, you call Seattle home for the past 30 years, I believe.
I apparently like rain. I don't,
We were just talking
time-
about Myrna and I's tanning in Arizona.
The
and we're
sun.
like,
yeah.
you ain't getting none of that.
Every
as
time
good
I
as
go
us.
back to LA or San Diego for my client visits, I'm like, why did I ever leave here?
Totally.
I don't
Oh,
know.
well.
Seattle's pretty freaking awesome. I traveled a lot up there.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love it.
Every once in a while.
Well, you've made it home for
True.
30 years. You live there with your wife. Yes,
Yep.
that you met her through what, I believe?
That would be through staffing.
Yep. And we'll get to that story.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
And then your three wonderful daughters, who we have some fun stories about them as well. But David, thank you so much for being here today.
Paul,
Thank
how do
you.
I even follow that introduction? Thank you. I mean, I feel
We're
like I should
done.
just, I don't know what else to say. I'm ready to retire. Hang it up.
And I feel like you're just halfway through your story, my friend. But
Totally.
I gave you a little kind of like cliff notes to it, but I would like you to walk us through your journey. Like, how did you get started in staffing? We like to say who lied to you, who got you in here, right? And then how did that kind of shape your career?
Thank you for that, like maybe embellished, I don't know, intro. I don't know, man. I just take it a day at a time. I guess I am a staffing junkie.
Yes.
I like that.
Because, and I'm also a recovering staffing person. But I am incredibly grateful for how it all went down. And I'll highlight it with this, man. Staffing taught me so much just about business and people and customer service, and it is so incredibly transferable, which I'll get to. But let me go to your question. How did I get into it? So it's funny. I have a college graduate that just graduated last week, and she's a theater kid, but I was too, but I was like, I'm not doing that for my career. I was in LA. I did my theater stuff, but I did some business stuff in college. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And this is going to answer your question. I went to the Career Center at Pepperdine University, and I was looking at job postings, and I'm like, what's available? Right. And there was a company then called Accountants Overload based in West LA. and I did some interviews with them, and they hired me as a college grad, saying, you're going to recruit, you're going to sell. And I kid you not, maybe some of you can relate to this. They gave me an old age trial balance of right of companies that they used to do business with, maybe owed them a little bit of money, and they gave me a phone and some post-it notes, and they're like, why don't you just make some phone calls and collect and then see if they have any other needs, right?
Go ask them
Was
for
that
money.
the no clients left behind?
Totally.
Yes, basically.
So I go into a cubicle, and I'm fresh college grad, and I'm like, hey, Myrna, this is David Adams with Accountants Overload. We did business with you. I know there's a couple invoices open. So my purpose of my call is see if we can collect on that, right? And go through that. And hey, by the way, while I have you on the phone, I've got a really good accounts payable clerk. Is there any chance you guys might have a need for something else? So, right?
Yeah.
And I found out pretty quickly that I freaking love this.
What?
Which is not what most people say.
That's the insanity that it takes a certain kind of individual to love what we do. So yeah,
I don't know what happened, but I was like, this is fun, right out of college. Awesome. And it was like the idea of multi-pronging a call. They didn't call it that, but that's what I was doing.
Right.
And what I love the most is just I'm talking to these people like friend to friend, like, how's it going? Hey, by the way, we need to collect payment. And oh, by the way, like it just came really, really natural. The idea of having a business conversation that wasn't transactional, that was more relational from the start. And that company had a good culture. And then I'm indebted to my first trainers. Shout out. I don't know if they listen to this. They should. Peggy Baggett was one of them. I don't know if you know these names.
Mary Woo,
right?
Yeah. I know Peggy. Yes.
So anyway, I was thrown in, and those two. Oh, and Mary Boland, right? Shout out to these
Mary
were my
Boland.
trainers.
I know Mary.
Right. So if they're not listening to this, they should be.
We'll tag them. Anyway, don't worry, we will.
Right. Yeah. They taught me so much. So that's how I got into it, because I didn't like probably most of us. Like, who says I'm going to go be a recruiter? We all fall into it, and I just fell into it right out of college, and had a great time.
Well, I tell you what, I did not tell this story when I introduced you, but when I got into staffing a few years ago, I went to a training in Cincinnati, and my trainer was Mr. David Adams right here. And I got to tell you, like, there's certain times, I think there's pivotal times in your career that you always remember. And I literally can remember where I sat in that training room. We were just reminiscing at a hotel. The impact that you had on developing that career was just, to your point, like when you have a great trainer that's really invested, it can make or break, right? Your trainer can make or break your company. And I think I remember going in there. I promise I did not show up hungover to class once. Probably did. But it was a blast. We had a blast.
That's so funny. Yeah, there's some old school memories that we'll just maybe tell some other time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. We had a great training center. We had some great times. I mean, we really got after it in that training center. We did a lot of like role plays and phone calls. And I made a lot as a trainer. I mean, honestly, I made a lot of mistakes as a trainer, which maybe we'll get to, and learned a lot of things like what not to do and what to do. But it was a lot of fun. But we worked, most importantly, we worked hard.
Yeah.
Really worked hard.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, we were super fortunate to have like the training crew that we had, at least at that time. I like Paul, I remember exactly where I sat, like, you and the phone banks, and you had to have your little like call plan like brought with you. But the ones that stand out to me the most, and I don't think we've talked about this. Do you remember your trusted advisor?
Totally. The video.
Oh my God, those videos. That's before we had training. I used to
Tom and Vic.
Oh my gosh, the best.
Yes, I forgot the names. But
Tom
my
and Vic.
favorite was like the client visit. Like the client visit. And you're just like the whole time, like, of course you don't do that. But like we had to ensure.
I still have those somewhere on my computer. My kids still sometimes also. So I think the beauty of those is I think we're all a little bit. Tom was like the does everything right. Vic was an idiot. I think what made those work, I don't know, in my opinion, is we all have a little bit of both in us.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And just for some context, these are videos that when I was 25 years old, this is 20 years ago. I can't believe it. 25 years old. And I'm just trying to figure out like some additional training and self-learning. And I found on the agility or whatever web we had that there was these trusted advisors, which were these quick snip videos of micro training.
They're 5 minutes.
Yeah. Like this was before micro training was cool, David. This was before it was like, now it's a term that people use, right? Microdosing training. And it really just impacted us so much.
Yeah.
And it gave us to like learn independently.
Yeah. That's funny. You remember those. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And it was the client visit, the one that like always stood out to me for whatever reason. Probably because I did some of the things I shouldn't be doing. I was like, oh, I really got to shape up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, those things, it's so funny. It's kind of The Office. If you haven't seen, they're like The Office, right?
Yeah.
Where you've got Michael, who's kind of a dork, but still likable. I mean, so, but here's the thing. Some of the things that we put in there, I did and didn't know any better. Like going into a client meeting and being like, Mirna, so what do you guys do here?
You're like,
oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So, and then obviously the opposite of doing your homework and having a good intro statement and a business all that. But anyway, that's funny.
All
good
of
times.
that good stuff, which is wild because those are, I mean, maybe you don't say it exactly the way I remember the training being, but they're the foundation of like everything that that I do, especially on a desk. But I know we're going to talk so much about all this stuff. So, but I do want us to kind of dive in a little bit, David, into because you worked both like professional and you did like commercial staffing. Tell us about that. Like, are they one and the same? What lessons did you learn?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's a great question. So here's the thing I love about staffing. Having worked for small companies in staffing and big corporations, the skill set really is the same, right? When I worked for smaller companies, I mean, I found myself doing crazy things like, negotiating leases for office space and designing tenant improvements for the cube, the bullpen, and then you get to the bigger company that I worked for, and you learn how the cycle of a corporation works that's publicly traded. And so I've had exposure to both sides of that. I think here's the thing. I don't know if this is hopefully not a tangent, but I think what I love the most about my 20 years as a staffing junkie is, and for a few of those of you who are listening, whether you stay in it or not, if you stay in it, great. If you don't, I can't think of a better training ground for anybody in business in general.
Yes.
Right. Because you're not just matching. I think of it this way. You're not just matching recs with resumes. And that's like table stakes. Like if you go to Vegas and you're going to play, you got to have this, like you have to be able to match a rec with a resume, but you have to level up the conversation. And I think what staffing provides people is maybe you work in, accounting and finance or IT or commercial. That's cool. Maybe you have a specialty niche, but your industries are often varied, right? Manufacturing, financial services, healthcare. And if you're really good at what you do, whether you're recruiting or you're selling, you're thinking more strategically about beyond the rec and the resume, how do I level up the dialogue? And so to think about like and some of you will probably roll your eyes, but I still use the framework of what are their pressures? What are their plans?
Yes.
What are their problems?
Yes.
And that to me can scale across a department manager, a huge corporation at a strategic level. And so what you can do is I think you can get like a working MBA by just being in staffing because you're exposed to so many different industries and you can talk shop with them about things more than just the rec and the resume if you're savvy about it, right? If you're savvy about it. And I won't go down that path, and here's what I think is crazy. What I found when I left staffing, that I use the same stuff.
Yes.
And most importantly, people in different, like manufacturing, my financial service customer, they're like, that's awesome. And it works.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think I'm so grateful for the staffing environment, because it teaches you how to have a business conversation beyond just the rec of a resume.
Yeah.
If you have a framework to do it,
And I think that's what it's interesting because so I did not go to college, and I jumped into staffing right out of being young and just did it. And it's crazy talking to friends that have gone to school and gone, and I'm telling you about my 20 years of dealing with CFOs and CEOs, and you get to hear all of their pressures. I know why companies failed.
Exactly.
I know the bad decisions they made. I have case study after case study. And it's funny, not saying that college is not beneficial, but I think there's something to be said for taking what you know and then leaning into staffing and just being curious and learning along the way. You become just this person that when you talk to a CFO, they're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, oh, let me tell you.
Like that's
Right. And it is. I kid you not. When I first started, I'm like, who's general ledger?
Yes.
And then
who's the GL around here?
Exactly. Who's general ledger? Who's got the stripes to the point where when Sarbanes-Oxley came out back in 2000. But and then there was the Y2K and all these to getting to the point where you could go toe to toe with a CFO on just good strategic conversation. You guys got there, I got there, where you could get into a meeting with an executive and they sense and know that you're not just you're a business person,
Yes.
Yeah.
And
that's so fun.
You can be a trusted advisor, if we will. Going
Totally.
back to those videos.
Yeah. So, what's funny? Can I just tell a quick example of my transition? So, I was 20 years in staffing, and then I did branding, L&D, and all that kind of stuff. One thing I did learn, actually, I know we're jumping around, is when I go back and I think of my early learning and development career, man, I think you could make an argument. I think a lot of people in learning, you're thorough sometimes at the expense of being effective. Right. I go back to my early career and I think, oh man, all the tools and all the information is there. But what people really need is what you said. It's bite size, it's micro. And so over time, I think I learned how to just be just in time and give people just what they need. So when I launched my own business 11 years ago, because I'm doing independent consulting, one of my first customers was in literally Wall Street. In LA or in New York City. And so I start to go, I'm now teaching these people how to sell, who wear white press shirts, they have cufflinks, right? And they're selling financial services from Wall Street, literally by the World Trade Center and the Memorial Pool and all that. And I'm spending weeks with them at a bank, and they're coming, and I'm just a little nervous because here I am, I'm a staffing guy, and I'm telling these people how to sell. Right.
Yes.
So I use the framework and I get in there and we have a good workshop, and then they set up a follow-up call with me. And I'm like, oh, here comes the feedback. I hope they like it, And so we got on a call, and you gotta context. Wall Street, right? And I'm a Seattle guy. We're kind of crunchy out here, right? Not very many people dress up. I mean, I dressed up for this training. And they say to me, okay, David, we love the training. It's great. We want to do more of it, do 5 more workshops, and it's strategic account selling and all that. But we have some feedback. And I'm like, oh, here we go. They're going to expose me, right? We have a policy here about facial hair. And it sounds like it was November, right? And you're kind of growing in. So you either have to have a full beard or it's got to be totally clean shaven.
No half-ass in that. You can't half-ass a beard here.
Have any of you walked the streets of Seattle? Because this is what we do. Right? But the funny thing was they loved the training, and that's the only feedback I got. I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Okay, I'll take that as a win.
That's awesome. Yeah.
It was random and weird, but
and I love, you kind of brought me into where I was going to go with my next question, David, because it's what I love about this podcast, and it's speaking to people about staffing. We talk about why staffing, why are you here? Like, there is so much that you can learn if you lean into what we do. And as you said, you've done it from sales, business development, managing branches, to training, to designing offices, right? Like all these different things that you've done, acquisitions, mergers, like we've been through it. And I think that there's something to be said for, like, you made a transition from staffing, and now 80% of your clients are not staffing. You said, I believe, is that what I remember?
That's right.
Obviously, you took a lot of those skill sets that have benefited. What made you make that transition? Like, where did you decide you're like, I'm going to try this? Like, what made that happen in your life?
Yeah, great question. Two, I would say two things. Three things. Um, One is having the framework of how to just take all this information that we're talking about, like not just what do you guys need, like, but the art of discovery and the science of discovery, right?
Mhm.
Really uncovering what are you trying to achieve as an organization, and then distilling that down into what are the obstacles that could get in the way, and then having a framework to help these people, tell a story. So I think being able to take all this information and distill it into a story that's compelling back to them, that they go, yes, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And can you help with that? Yes. Here's how. Now think about if you're a recruiter listening to this, having that framework to distill all this information into a concise story. If you're prepping somebody for an interview, you can tell them about the job, but can you tell them, like, if I say, Paul, here's the interview, this is what you need to be prepared for when you go into the interview.
Yeah.
That's what's on the job description. But let me tell you what they're trying to achieve, right?
Yeah.
Level it up, right? So that the person that's going in to interview can say something about, well, I know here's what's on the job description. I know one of the challenges you have as a company, and let me share some of the things that I've done in my last job that can help overcome that challenge, right?
Yeah.
So it all, being able to do that quickly, whether it's a recruiting conversation, a prep conversation, a sales conversation, I think is the skill that makes that work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one. Number two,
Yeah.
contacts. Like,
Mm.
the reason that happened, that I have more clients out of staffing, a lot of people that I had, like you and Mira, you, and people who have left staffing and are at other companies, like I've just LinkedIn, I've kept in touch and keep these
Yes.
Yeah.
relationships going. They're now launched into other industries, and they call and they're like, hey, David, what are you doing? Do you have any time? Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's what's also great about recruiting. You're
Yeah.
meeting so many people. Keep those relationships warm,
Yeah.
right? And check in with people without an ask.
Yeah.
Sometimes it gets slightly annoying, like when people are like, I haven't heard from somebody in 25 years, but like, hey, David, I'm looking for a job. I mean, I'm happy to help. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
But check in with people periodically that you think are going to be like rising, those people that are kind of
Mm.
that are like, oh man, that person's going somewhere.
Yes.
Think about all the people you meet and make an effort to stay in touch with just some warm touches with those people. So if you ever,
Yeah.
so the A, they remember you.
Yeah.
B, if you ever have an ask, it's not the first time you've talked to them
Mm.
in
Yeah.
20 years. You know what I mean? Those
Yeah.
Yeah.
contacts really helped me launch my career.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
Yeah.
do a lot of outbound selling because I had people just saying, "Hey, I'm over here
Yeah.
now. What are
Yeah.
you doing? We'd like to get your help." And that's, I've had 11 years of that, and it's just worked. So
Yeah.
Well,
the
and I think
third,
something
yeah,
you kind of alluded to,
Yeah.
David, is like the impact to that you have with these people, like, and how you kind of make them feel through the process of like building those networks and relationships, or else they
no,
wouldn't feel like comfortable like reaching back out to you. And I know you mentioned like some of these skills, right? I know you mentioned kind of like networking,
right.
sales, like if you had to like put all of that together, what are some of those skills that you have seen show up in kind of your new career doing what you're doing, aside from what we've talked about already?
Mm.
So that I was going to say the third thing you just
Yeah.
teed it up, and we really didn't even talk about that. It is the human connection.
Mm.
If I were to distill it, it is that human connection of, I live in stories, man. So can I share one that's related to this?
Please.
Please.
I know. It's like,
David
Wait,
is
David
a
Adams telling a
storyteller, so
story?
squirrel.
please
It's like I
tell
don't
us
know. I
the
just want to like
story.
actually pull up my blanket and get my cookies and like listen
Yeah,
to the story.
totally.
Oh man, life is about stories, right?
Yeah.
So it's the human connection. And this is something that, so when I was younger and my kids were younger, we used to, I'm crunchy Seattle Northwest guy. We used to hike and backpack and all that kind of stuff. And we still do, but I'm an old guy now with a bad back. So some of these are behind me. Anyway, so we went backpacking with my kids, and I want to say they're like 6, 8, no, 12, somewhere in that range. we're in the Cascade Mountains, backpack, like we go into the backcountry, right? And not like car camping where you can hear other people's speakers. Like we're way in the wilderness, having a great time. And I was teaching my kids this whole leave no trace thing, right? So that's a thing. Leave no trace, like clean up after yourself. One of my kids, I can't remember which one it was, pretty young, but she's like, Dad, I think that's kind of lame. And I'm like, excuse me? I'm teaching you something, a value, and you think it's lame, right? And she goes, no. She goes, well, like, look at the campsite. Like, there's dirt or there's garbage here that wasn't ours, but it was somebody else's. What if we should leave it better than we found it? I'm like, whoa, Yoda, I'm like, where did that come from? I married a gal with a philosophy degree. So like some of that deep thinking,
like trickled down.
Trickled into my kids from my wife because I'm more squirrel, right? So anyway, so as we're hiking out, that conversation, leave it better than you found it, became a thing. And to land this, our family came up with this thing because one of the kids, I think it was the older one, said, well, that should be our mantra as a family. And we'll call it +1. Yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she said, this is the human connection story, right? Work, right? It works. It's like an umbrella. Leave every person, place, or thing slightly better than you found them. And then so we're now curating this on our trip out from this hike. Curating it means like, what does that mean? So think about this place. We just left a place better than we found it, the campsite, right? It also applies to the kitchen, and I use it against them now. I'm like, I just walked into the kitchen. There's dishes that are dirty. That's -1, right? So we kind of joke about it. Like if you go to like put the dish away, wipe the counter, like leave the place slightly better than you found it. A thing is easy. You borrow someone's car, return it with just a little more gas, vacuum it, and then people, every person. How do you leave a person feeling better? And so we distilled that down to, for the most part, have them feel heard and understood. And then so how do you do that? And that's the art, right? That's instead of like, blah, 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 let me tell you, it's like, listen.
Yeah.
Understand them, play back what you heard so that human connection takes place. And so, we call +1, we'll now go on walks with the dog and see somebody that left the dog duty on, didn't pick it up. And I'm also, let me just be totally honest. I am grumpy sometimes and I don't feel like doing it, but like my kids will be like, okay, how were you on that walk? I'm like, +2, I picked 2 others up that I didn't drop. Right. And that's the place. So anyway, that's sort of the human connection, I think, permeates across recruitment, staffing, sales, business in general. And people, I just, my experience is this, and then I'll stop, are craving this.
Yes.
Because we live in this completely transactional, fast-paced digital world. Right. And it's like, how do you cut through that? And if you can, as you're managing, mentoring, training people, get that somehow in what they're doing, I think it makes a huge difference. I
love that. And David, one of the things that we talk, and I'm gonna dive into this, but like we talk about storytelling, and it's something that that's why I was just like, Dave, tell the story, get the blanket and the cookies, let's go. Because there's something to be said for being able to tell a story that you're bringing your personal life into the story and impacting somebody that makes them remember, right? And so I think that there's something to be said about that aspect. And like you've mentioned storytelling as like one of these most transferable skills. So from your angle, why is storytelling so important? Because when you think about it, I say this, somebody hears the word sales,
right?
Every job, you are a salesperson, whether it's internally trying to get a promotion, externally trying to make your manager happy, trying to make somebody whatever. Like, so why is storytelling so powerful?
I have no idea.
Tell us a story, David.
I think it's just kind of a universal, to me, whatever, if I try to teach you the skill or the information, I think maybe this is the Maya Angelou thing, right? People don't remember what you said or did. but they'll always remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've always kind of latched onto that. She wrote Why the Cage Bird Sings. I mean, she's just
Yeah.
amazing author and poet. But I think stories, if you can remember a story, the story itself is probably what gets the heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the key is trying to make those stories connect to the skill so that they go, oh
Yeah.
yeah, that story that reminded me to do this different, or that story reminded
Mm-hmm.
me to use that tool, or that's sort of
Right.
I think the secret sauce.
Yeah.
Because I don't think people remember the tool. They don't remember I don't know, the nut, but they remember more often the story
Yeah.
that was connected
Yeah.
to the skill or
Yeah.
the thing to execute.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
It's
yeah,
getting to
that
the heart.
and I think that's something. What's interesting is I think we had a prep call earlier, and one of the things we've always been talking to Mirna and I is about AI, right? We'll probably get into that
Yeah.
later, but everybody's like, well, what can AI not replace? And you telling a story about your life and something you've been through, like
Mhm.
you talk about the human connection, like I can connect with that, right?
Mhm.
AI can tell me the same story. In my mind, I'm like, it's never been on that damn hike, right? Like I'm like,
Yeah.
it doesn't have
Right.
3 kids. And it's
Right.
like, so when you talk about the storytelling, it's something that kind of like was an aha moment of like, I think it's so powerful personally for me because it's something that is really where the human connection lies. It is the story that connects us, right? Where it's
Yeah.
where, and that's where, because people buy from people they trust, they buy from
Yeah.
people they like and that they align
Yeah.
with. And so selling those stories, I think, is impactful there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. And I think when I realized early in my career that that's what was resonating,
Mhm.
I really did consciously start going about my life capturing moments,
Mm.
right? That were like, oh, that's a good example of when you execute this in staffing, or that's a good example of when you sell
Yeah.
or close, and I really did after a while consciously start thinking about what could I use as examples or stories. So,
Hmm.
if you're listening, I mean, that's you're so spot on, Paul, in that, I use Chat GPT and AI every day
Totally.
for information.
Yes.
People don't
Hmm.
need you to give them information. They need
Mhm.
you to connect it to something more
Yeah.
meaningful, right?
That's a good point. Yeah.
I don't. So yeah, it's a rapidly changing world, but I think if you can, heart, head, hands, if you can connect to the heart, it sticks more with the head and the hands,
Yeah.
in my
Yes.
experience.
I love your
Well, and I
head
think you can
hands.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
and I think you can like picture the story. Like I'm such a visual person, and I'm sure I'm speaking to those that are visual, but when somebody's telling me a story, and I think Sean Campbell was the one that told me when you're telling people something and somebody looks up, that's because they're like actually like visualizing like
Mhm.
what you're saying. And so when I think
Yeah,
about stories that resonate, it's really like the meaning of the story, the impact of the story, like you said, the human connection. But then
Mhm.
if you can like picture it on top, like
Mhm.
it really, like you said, it just like resonates with everything inside of you.
Yeah.
Which I love the storytelling because that's what you do really well. But it also is a big part of why you've been such a successful trainer and
Mhm.
facilitator today. So when you're thinking about trainers, like, or people that do what you do, how do you think that, like, what makes a good trainer a good
Mm.
trainer?
Oh, that's
Sorry, it
fun.
took me a second to spit that
no,
out.
that's
No, I love that. That's a
um,
great question.
yeah. I have a totally different answer now than I would have 15, 20 years ago.
Sure.
I kind of touched on this earlier, and maybe some of your listeners, maybe this will relate. It's like when I first got into training, I was amassing a library of tools,
Yes.
um, and we needed it. I think we needed some kind of like library where people can go to. But I think now, because of this micro training thing, I always think about, okay, somebody says, I need training from my people. The first thing that I think of now is, obviously there's a lot more I could unpack here, but what do you want them to feel, think, or do differently after we train them, and force that conversation, because a lot of times the people who contact me and say, I need training. Well, what do you want them to feel, think, or do after, right? Differently. And so, and a lot of times they hadn't thought of it. So they're like, oh, well, let me think about this. Only when that is crystal clear can you design something that is micro and just in time, right? I think a lot of times a trainer thinks about, I mean, I just experienced it. Oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah, we'll load them up with all kinds of stuff, and I'll tell them, talk to them, and I'll give them PowerPoints, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? You've got to really force what's the true learning objective, and then maybe create a trail of milestones. What's step 1? What's step 2? What's step 3? And then just do little bits and pieces on that yellow brick road until 4 months, 5 months goes by, and the person's like, oh my gosh, I'm really good at this now, but it was timed right.
Yeah.
Instead of like, here's a 12-inch manual, go over there and read it, or here's 77 slides. We talked about that. How come you're not doing it? It's like, that's So
that was slide 29. What are you talking about?
You were there. Did you read it? Yeah.
Well, and I want to kind of add to that, because like as times have changed, right? You hear so much about like even how they do movies and shows and episodes, right? Like sometimes people don't feel like watching a full movie, but they want to watch a series. But maybe a series is too long, so they watch like something else, right? Have you noticed with technology training, and there is, science and information out there about just like the inability sometimes for people to stay focused enough to even learn what you're trying to learn? What are some of like those battles that you have to kind of overcome with the new world? Because I know when we showed up to your training, we didn't have cell phones. Like we were tied to our work emails in that sense. And so, we really went to training to train, and we spent every minute and every hour in there focused and learning. And, so what are those changes? Because I know I've felt that through certain training, but I'm curious from you, with your long career, how that's changed over time.
Okay, so it's so funny that you asked that. So I'm coming out of a medical leave. I just had some pretty significant back issues, and I was in a program over the last 6 weeks, a pain management program at one of the major hospital systems here in Seattle, and it was a highly rated pain management program. And they put me in a course where I was now the student. And now I'm in with a group of people. Now there's some of it's one-on-one coaching and physical therapy and all kinds of stuff. But the other one was a group session where we're all sitting in a classroom and they were reading slides. They were turning their back to us and reading the bullet points. And then they would turn around and go, so what do you guys think? And I was, you can imagine.
Mortified.
I'm like, 1995 called and they want their training back.
Well, they also probably had 1995 software too. Yeah.
Right. So maybe you won't be surprised about this. So I made a little noise
What?
outside of the class about, you guys, come on. Right. And
awesome.
So here's the thing, that to answer your question, and I said, I'm going to say this with humility. If most of your people that are in this program are boomers, they have the right setup, because boomers love lectures.
Yeah.
They actually do. But if you go down to X, millennials, Y, Z, the attention span goes like this because of the digital world that they grew up in. And so to me, the best, you have to know your audience, who am I teaching, but for the most part, I'll default to like a 10-10-10 model, right? And what do I mean by that? Like no more than 10 minutes of talking about something. Don't ever turn your back. If there's something behind you on a screen, great, but don't turn your back. Talk to them, give them a story, give them a nugget, give them 10 minutes to chew on it. Put them in groups of 3, put them in groups of 2, make them move around the space physically, right?
Yeah.
And then the last 10 is you kind of debrief. What'd you guys talk about? Where does this apply? So it's like, it has to be like this now.
Yeah.
Right. For the most part, because
Yeah.
you're right, Mirna, that people they just need faster, even like
Yes.
if you do online learning, baby boomers are fine with this kind of delivery. That would kill my kids if I'm talking at
Totally.
this pace, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
My kids are like, put it 1.5 or 2.
They're like, hurry up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so it's really adjusting it for that, I think,
Yeah.
which is why you can have the whole library, but man, it's got to be,
Yes.
Yes.
little bits at a
Yeah.
time.
And I think that's, and it's funny, David, you just told a story about the question to get us back. No, again, I think the beautiful thing is that what makes a great trainer and how it works is you start with a story, you tell the part, and it's just, it's how you bring it all together and how you communicate, which I freaking love. And the other thing was interesting is you talked about learning the requirements, right? Like some people are like, oh, I'm trainer, so I know what I'm going to train them because this is what I train everybody, and this is my deck, or this is
Let
my
me impart my wisdom.
Yes, exactly. But it's funny because we're having another podcast coming up where we're going to talk about like companies and even software adoption, where it's like, what do you want the software to do, right? Like you need to understand the requirements before you adopt the software. Training is the same way. Like, what do you want this to accomplish? Because then you can make sure that the training is adapted right and you onboard it correctly. So, and I love that it's the parallels between what you've done. Like, again, you can transition. You can probably be a software implementation consultant based off of learning how to train people. But so training is such an important component, I think, of organizations and companies because it does so much that I think is overlooked. And we are seeing more and more companies start to cut training. And and they're decentralizing it and putting it off to managers and leaders and being like, you handle it. Here's your training deck, manage your teams, right? So like, why do you think this is happening? And like, what should leaders and companies be concerned about when they're doing this? And what should they watch for as a red flag? Because they're going to do it. Everybody's cutting costs.
Man, I'll tell you, this is normal cycle, right? Expand, contract, centralize, decentralize, and in all the companies that I've been in the last 11 years since I left staffing, it's the same cycle, right? So I think for the most part, a lot of times training gets cut when times get tighter because it's not very good. It's not very good. It's more like lecture and strategic sales support or recruitment support. And I think if it's not very good, it becomes a luxury item as opposed to an essential item. And so there are some companies that I've been in that have really good L&D teams, but for the most part, they come from whatever, like they've carried the bag, they've been in the business. They can go into a company. I mean, one of my clients is a manufacturer in Chicago that does medical devices, right? What are they going to learn from me? But it worked because I've been in sales. I've carried a bag. I can tell stories about when I was in a situation with a CEO or CTO, and immediately those people that are engineers are like, oh, yeah, okay, he gets it. It's like I can check that box. But in a lot of cases, whoever the L&D or training team is, if they haven't been in the shoes of the people you're training, it's really hard to make that connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the department that gets cut. It becomes more of a luxury. I'm not, if anybody here is in staffing, I'm all about staffing. Stay in it. If you want to go into learning and development, I love that too. I'd just be good at it, be really good at it. Because if you're not good at it, then it becomes a luxury as opposed to being really essential.
Yeah. So what would you say, like, on top of that, like knowing that this is going to happen, like if I'm a leader, like what should I look for? So I cut my L&D team, right? Or my training team. Like, what should I look out for? Like, what is a red flag that maybe I made the wrong decision?
Oh, on training?
Yeah.
So lack of some metrics, right? If there's no metrics to show that their behavior's changed, you've improved sales, you've decreased the losses of customers as opposed to training. So that's one of the things I work on with my customers is how are we going to measure it? And listen, it's hard sometimes to make it really black and white. But the more you can create metrics that show that this training program, not just an event, not like they went to 2 days with David and team. And it's like, sending your kids to grandma's for the weekend, hoping that they come back with manners. Like it's not, it's gotta be cultural and spaced out. And so I design programs that are spaced out over 6 months, 12 months, 9 months, 12 months, where we're constantly looking back at what behaviors have changed, what metrics have we reduced turnover of the salespeople, and to show the CFO or the president or the CEO, like, look, this journey has helped move this needle on this. That's what, if you don't have that, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Right. You got the wrong consultant, training partner, L&D team, whatever. You got to measure it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. So it's basically like, just like you said, it's like, if you're going to cut training, like why are you cutting it? Like, what was it supposed to be doing for you? Why did you even have training in the first place? Right. Like, it's interesting. Yeah.
Right. It's
really interesting because, go for it, David.
No. I really, I was just going to say it's a dance, because the bigger the training group is, the more the field management thinks, oh, go to training, you guys figure, and like they outsource it. You got to find that perfect balance where the managers in the field, the leaders in the field realize that training and development is still their job. And that the training group is going to help give me tools and frames to do that, because they'll learn more from their manager than from 3 days with a trainer, 2 days with a trainer. So you have to kind of find that right balance. And I've been in organizations where the training team is so big that the managers are like, I don't have to do that. Right. And that'll fail too.
Yeah.
So,
and you said something interesting, and I know we were going to move on to another question, but like one of the things I think really impacted and made Myrna so great at what she does, and you probably benefited as well, is we work for an organization that didn't just stop training after you were trained. Like they trained you to be a better leader and then a better manager. And it's like if you have a training where it's all inclusive, to where it's like it's not, and your managers are now invested because they're getting trained and they have to train. I think it creates that kind of like cyclical cycle to where training is now, it's not just a transactional thing, it's part of your DNA, and training is what we do day in and day out.
Yeah, not every company can do that really well. And I think because we've been in staffing for so long, to your point, David, we see these like cyclical styles of when it comes to training and development, but also with recruiting. Like a lot of companies are dumping their talent acquisition and everybody freaks out every time. But as soon as you start getting that dip up and everybody's like, let's go, all of a sudden, you kind of start seeing all that onboarding back on. And so there's you're right, it's cyclical, but I love what you say. It's like you have to kind of ask the question, why did we even start this?
Right.
Was it just because we had extra money and we just wanted to put it somewhere? Or, do we actually want to train these people and actually grow our organization and become whatever they want to become, right?
Yeah. That's a great point, Myrna. Like if you're a manager or in the field of one of my customers, whether I'm talent acquisition or whether I'm L&D, if you don't see me as I'm helping you become better at your job, you as the field manager to hire, to learn how to interview, to train your own people, if you don't see that connection, I'm going to get termed pretty quick. You know what I mean? And so the ones, and I'm not saying it's like a silver bullet, like it doesn't, sometimes it just, these companies do this and they don't think about it. They just cut talent development or talent acquisition or L&D. But if you're the person that Myrna and Paul says, whoa, you know what? Are you kidding me? I am so much better as a manager because of what they do. The more you can zipper, I think about zippering relationships. The more you can get your customers, not just one person, but 4 or 5 people inside of your clients to say, no, they're great. Are you kidding me? To make noise, it's less likely that you'll be considered expendable. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier. If you're just talent acquisition, matching recs with resumes, like you got to level that up. You got to be able to have a business conversation and then have little teaching nuggets for that hiring manager, so that going back to the +1, every time you interact with that talent development person, talent acquisition person, you as the field manager get off the phone going like, I learned something. I feel a little better. I always like those calls. That's the whole zippering and the +1 thing that doesn't turn on a dime, but it just creates this cool connection
Yes.
that you're not expendable.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because you're not the first person. You're the first person to call it +1,
Yeah.
but you're definitely not the first person where I've heard it and truly believe that, your job as a leader is to make someone better than you found them. I learned that from Bernadette Gilson, somebody that I just admire so much. And it was true. She was like, if I can make this person better, whatever it is, but they still decide to leave, like, I feel like I've done, my part. So to kind of transition into that, like, what's some of the worst, as well as like best advice that you received as a leader?
Hmm. Man, that's just like my mind's bing. There's so much there. I do a leadership development program in my consulting practice that helps managers who are so overwhelmed, right? And they've got their teams are growing too. It's like they're stripping middle management in a lot of companies.
Oh, yes.
Right. And so they're kind of like just frazzled. They're like, I no longer have 5 direct reports. I have 15 or whatever. Right.
Yeah.
And so let me think about how to best answer your question, the worst or best advice. I'll just go with the best advice. And this is one of the things that I focus on in my program is, again, if you want to lead your people, think of it this way. There's all these, carrot and stick motivation. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? Or you can punish them. The latest studies on motivation, and I think this applies to management, is called the progress principle. And the progress principle, if a manager can just take this little nugget and think about all people really want in today's fast-paced world, and I'm not saying that the 3 to 5 year plan isn't still relevant, but for the most part, people just want to feel a little bit better today than they did yesterday. To go home every day and feel like, I learned something today. Oh, that was a cool moment with Myrna today. And so the progress principle creates this little like, well, as a manager, I got a million things I have to do on my own, but I want to make sure my interaction with you, again, makes you feel slightly better today than yesterday.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have to be a huge time commitment, a big formal sit down meetings. It's kind of just the way you interact with your team. Shut up, listen to what's going on with them without hey, I need you to fill out that report, right? Oh, hey, Paul, hey, how was your weekend? Okay, cool. You know what I need from you? You know what I mean?
Fill out that report.
It's like a sandwich thing. It's like, I really don't care about this. I'm gonna go right to that. Yeah.
So I empathize with the fact that these things that I'm talking about are not easy and they don't always work and there's no panacea. But these little habits of how you interact with your team so they feel a little bit better. The progress principle is thinking about it, and I won't go into it here, but there's in my program, and I'm not trying to sell my program, but
no,
maybe I am.
But buy it if you want.
You buy it.
Yeah. But it teaches the manager, the VP, whoever in the field, this concept of where their person is in the learning cycle. And then how, based on where they are, you can have a little interaction today that helps you figure out, like, what do they need from you today? And it's really kind of this cool workshop that we go through, and it gives them tools on how to think. Like, I just want Paul and Myrna to go home today and say to their spouse or their significant other, or partner, whatever, and say, God, today was a pretty good day. I learned something. Or and if you can string more of those days together, because sometimes it's like baseball. I'm not even a huge baseball fan because the Mariners suck and I live in Seattle. You know what? They don't suck. They're always just mediocre.
Yeah.
They're never terrible. They're like right on the cusp of making the playoffs, and then they don't. But in baseball, I think there's 162 games in a season. The greatest teams that make the playoffs, maybe they win 95, 100.
Yeah.
Right. And so my wife and I don't do this anymore, but we used to, because our schedules have changed, but we used to, at the end of every day or have a drink, or in the morning have coffee and go, did you win or lose yesterday? And we'll just talk. Today was a win. Like that's like the progress principle. Some days are like, it's kind of a draw. And you know what? Some days are like, my ass kicked. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Well, no, you're on. We're allowed. This is a raw.
No,
you're good. You're good. It's
okay.
And
just put a beep in there.
And David, I got to tell you, we won't beep it out. If anything, we're going to accent it because that's how we do
that's
it.
Funny.
So
yeah.
I will say this, David, like there's a couple things you say. It's almost like everybody's talking about that 1% better. Just be 1% better every day. And it's like your progress principles there. And you literally have what you do is you teach there's a difference between being a leader and a manager, right? And you train people because people are going to be both in companies, and you've gotten all of this skill set and your toolkit from like your career and staffing, and totally. I tell you what, like I know we're going to go to our fast forward in a minute, but I just want to say, like, if there's people in staffing today that they're like, I freaking hate my job, nobody's hiring, my clients suck, my candidates stink, right? Whatever it is, we all go through these stresses.
It's tough.
But then we stick in it, and then there's good times too. But like, what would you say to somebody that's sitting in staffing right now? That's one thing that you realize that you have in your toolkit that staffing gave you that you can take with you going forward in your career. Like, what was something that would be a couple key things that somebody's like, you know what, you're right. I see the forest through the trees.
Right. One I've already talked about, and I feel like maybe I'm talking about too much, but get your conversations above the rec and the resume.
Yeah.
We talked about that a little bit, but like elevate that dialogue. Like think about your customers as a chance for you to learn their business and really be able to talk shop. And so, you know what? It's a tough business. It's an emotional roller coaster. You get beat up, but you can learn something every day, or every other day, or every third day that you didn't know about that industry. And it's these little habits, micro habits, that you can find something in staffing to latch on to that, maybe I got my butt kicked yesterday. I had a fall off, or a placement didn't work, or whatever. But if you're learning something new, you're building your skill set that's going to serve you well in the long term. So, and that human connection thing, it's hard. I have so much empathy for staffing, but I don't know.
No, that's good.
Rambling.
I think it's great. I mean, I think that, like, as you said, there's so much and if we just go back through what we talked about today, it's like, there's so much that you talk about. And I'm like, that's why the time has gone so quick. Cause I'm just like,
it goes by so fast.
It goes so fast, but no, it's not that, but like, there's so much that you have to reflect on in the many years that we've done staffing that you're like, I did not realize that was a takeaway that I just did, right? Or had.
Right.
So David, I tell you, we could talk all day, and I am extremely loving like this catch up with you. But I also want to know, like, there's the David that has this amazing program, Make Your Leaders Better Leaders, and he can train your salespeople, better salespeople. But who is David Adams outside of the trainer, right? And so,
an old guy with a bad
unmasking David,
unmasking David Adams. So I want to know, like, obviously they've changed, but what is one of your guilty pleasures outside of work? Like, who is David when he's not training David?
Okay. I'm a musician. I do a lot of recording of music with my family. We have a YouTube page with some of our recordings.
I'm sorry, what?
Okay,
we are adding that to our YouTube. We're going to maybe we'll share some followers, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I don't do it to monetize. I do it. It's more like a digital. It's more like a digital and musical compilation of our family memories that I put in the videos of the songs we record.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I have 3 very musical kids. And they're awesome. They're so fun. They're like, thank God I married the woman I married, because she's like off the charts IQ, EQ.
Yes.
And so my kids get that from her. So hiking, but I haven't lately. And it's funny, the first thing that came into my mind with guilty pleasure, I have a problem with Nilla wafers. I don't know why. If you bought
David,
me a box of Nilla wafers, I would just like, they'd be gone. And I'm like, they're not even good. I don't know why. So I know that's not what you're asking.
Surprise,
About.
this is an intervention, David.
Yeah.
About your wafer addiction.
Yeah. It's so funny. One of my best friends lives in San Diego, and I flew before my back was bad. I flew down to have a weekend with him. We were going to e-bike in the mountains of the San Gabriel Mountains. And he picks me up from my hotel, and he just pulls up with his truck, and the e-bikes are in the back. And I'm like, yes, this is going to be, because I just finished training someone in San Diego, right? And he drives over, and we're going to now go out to, I don't know, Big Bear, whatever it is, Arrowhead. He pulls up, opens the door, get in. This is literally, he doesn't say, oh, get in. And then he puts a box of Nilla wafers in the passenger seat. And I'm like, dude, I love you. I love you.
He lured you in.
So this is how you get David into the van. Just put
this is my buddy Paul.
And
it was like +1 within 30 seconds.
That is amazing.
So all the way up the mountains.
That's amazing. Well, and he knows you well, so he's a great friend.
Yeah.
Well, what's a show you recently binge watched, or movie you would recommend that you enjoyed recently?
I am terrible at watching movies. I fall asleep. That's the joke in the family. It could be some super action-packed thriller, and I'm like,
same.
Right? And they look over. I'm a documentary. Yeah, I'm a documentary buff. I watch documentaries like crazy.
Anyone that you recommend right now that you're just like, oh, that was good?
The one on Boeing I just finished. Oof,
okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I live in Seattle, and it talks about the Max plane and how.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. So obviously, we're not gonna. I bet you're a book guy then, probably, right? I mean,
yeah, I'm a little out of habit.
There's a few behind you. So if you had to maybe say it is as a leader, or not even a leader, is there? Even if it's your favorite freaking book, like what's one or two books that you would recommend that people need to read?
Man, okay, so that's another one where how do I distill that down? I'll tell you one that stuck with me for years, and it's a little tiny like coffee table kind of book. Mm-hmm. And it almost it has pictures in it. It's called The Precious Present.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
And I don't know if I want to give you the whole ending.
No, that's okay. Don't even. I mean, we are talking about presence, and that is like. Yeah. I mean. Yes. I believe my therapist just told me we need to work on that. So it's being present. It's good stuff. Yeah, I love it.
Yep. And I'll just say this maybe to add some mystery to it. There's this little boy, and there's this older adult, and every time he's around this older adult, the adult says, "Someday someone will give you a present, and you will be really happy once you receive that present." And the kid's like, "What are you talking like Christmas?" Yeah, right, or whatever, or birthday. And the book goes through how that's not it.
Yeah,
it's something else.
I love it.
And that's just always stuck with me. It's an old book.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. Absolutely. Well, this is our last question to round up everything. What's something that you're grateful for right now?
Well, in being a Seattleite, and I haven't been flying lately because of my medical condition, but the fact that the sun is finally out in Seattle.
Yes.
I would be grateful for that as well up there.
That's a huge win.
Yeah. I mean, totally transparent. I mean, I mean, from the heart here, like I've been through some stuff.
Yeah.
Been through some stuff in the last couple months where I wasn't sure how this was going to go down. And I'm unbelievably thankful for my immediate family, my wife, my 3 kids who helped me navigate this. I had many, many years of great health with no issues, and then bam.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that I'm here with you.
David,
thank you for making the time.
Yes. I tell you what, David, we are so grateful for you, and I'm glad that your life is not, it's back. Your medical stuff is.
We tried to do this a while ago.
We did. Yeah.
And I tell you what, like the takeaway for me on this is the +1. And it's something that I think that we forget every day. We get so wrapped up in our little lives and our little dramas and politics and whatever. And it's like, we're still all human. We still all want to be better, and we all want that progression. So I hope that everybody took something from this, because I know I'm literally like writing stuff down, even though we've done 3 preps. I took new stuff away just today. So
same.
David, thank you so much for
awesome.
being on the Digital Bullpen. And remember, guys, if you liked it, I'm sure you did, share it, tag somebody.
Yes.
David, I hope we get to have you back on again because
yes.
awesome. There's so much more we could have. I would love it.
To.
Yes,
There's so many more questions.
Well, thank
let's
you, David.
do another round.
Yes, let's do it.
Yes,
I love
round
it.
two.
Well, it's good to see you. We'll talk to you soon, David.
We'll
thank you.
Send you vanilla wafers your way.
Oh, yeah. Watch me balloon up from eating too many.
I love it. Bye. Have a great day, David.
Take care.